today, or to be more exact, for more than 2 years now, people are talking about China plus one. China plus one. And this one is Vietnam. Japanese businesses, American businesses, European businesses are doing China plus one formula in their strategy and their operations. And I think this is quite encouraging for us.
I'm going to claim the chair's privilege of asking the last controversial question, if I may. Karl Marx argued that capitalism would one day reach a crisis where the captains of industry would no longer be able to act rationally and satisfactorily to manage the economy in the private sector alone, and that increasingly the state would need to intercede and manage the affairs of capitalism, of the economy, of the private sector. Some have argued over the past decades, and no, obviously Karl Marx is wrong. You'll never have a financial crisis or an economic crisis that would be beyond the capacity of the private sector alone to manage. I wonder today in Vietnam, as you are going through this process of development, of opening your economy, of liberalizing your economy, whether you are thinking about the correct relationship between the state and the economy in a different way than you might have 25 years ago.
Well, thank you very much for this important, both theoretical, philosophical, and practical question. Understanding, human knowledge, human perception evolve. Particularly for people like Vietnamese people. As I said earlier, for decades, or even for nearly a century, we didn't have time to learn many important things that we are learning today, including economics. And therefore, what we understood earlier need to be corrected, and actually has been adjusted. But when you ask this question, I would like to put this question in the context of the current global financial and economic crisis. By the way, in my mission, we have certainly, like in other mission, we do have division of labor, and my part of that process of division of labor is within the Security Council. I'm in charge of issues related to Europe, Asia, Americas. That's simple. And outside the Security Council, I'm in charge of second committee, which is about economic, financial issues. I'm in charge of third committee, which is in charge of all social issues, including, say, indigenous issues, human rights, health care, and women status, etc., gender, HIV and AIDS. I'm also in charge of fifth committee, which is the committee about well, the reform of the UN system, about the budgeting process, etc. I'm also in charge of the General Assembly itself in my mission, certainly. And therefore, I have been directly involved in the whole process of discussions about the financial crisis. Yesterday morning, I attended a briefing by Undersecretary Shazikang, and it was also he was also joined by the Deputy National Security Advisor of the States on International Trade and Economic Affairs. And I was the first to raise a question to them. Actually, they briefed us on the outcome of the Pittsburgh G20 meeting. the view certainly was very positive about the meeting because they were both directly involved. But I raised a question. I was the first to raise a question. And my question was to ask them to comment on another comment by Joseph Stiglitz. I believe you know him. Joseph Stiglitz talked about the bailout, the stimulus packages. He criticized that this G20 meeting in Pittsburgh didn't deal with adequately the banks, particularly those too big to fail banks. And these banks are in the center of the causes of the crisis by giving those banks huge blank checks. And with these blank checks, they would come up with this situation: win-win-lose. Bankers win, investors win, taxpayers lose. No, this is not my view. I'm just repeating it. But back to the issue that you have raised. When we talk about the crisis, many people have come up to me asking me why Vietnam can be more or less insulated from the crisis. This year, we still believe that we would have a GDP of 5%. 5% this year. Last year, it was 6.3%. The year before, 7.1%. And we actually have maintained between 7 and 8% GDP growth rate for about 20 years. My answer was, it's a combination of market and state. Market and state. I remember when we first adopted the policy, economic policy 20 years ago, of market economy under the management of the state. We were strongly criticized. But now that with this financial and economic crisis, we can believe that at least so far, we have gone a correct way. And if you look into the adjusted policies of most of the countries, including of this country, in recent months, you would see that, while officially or not, publicly or not, the role of the state has been strengthened. In combination, hopefully harmoniously, with the market mechanism. That would ensure safety and security, both traditional and non-traditional, for the population. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. If on your way out you would please submit your evaluation sheets to the gentleman by the door, who will not let you leave until you do so. And please join me in thanking their excellencies.
Thank you so much. Thank you.